Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Don Mafia Report, live Monday through Friday at 10:15 a.m. EST. Sometimes a little later, and depending on what I was preparing for the show prior to all of that. But welcome to the show. I am so happy that you guys always make this a part of your morning routine, your daily routine. I'm going to do my best to keep you entertained. I think you're going to like the topic today because we have a pretty damn good secondary over in Buffalo. We really do. And in my opinion, based off of the shock move we saw yesterday with Darius Slay being added to the roster, I think we've gotten even better. And no, I don't think Darius Slay is going to be a starting CB2 for us, or I don't think that he's going to be anywhere close to what he was in the early 2020s. But I do think, and I think all of us can agree, that he is an incredible upgrade from Jamarcus Ingram, who was sort of the trade-off player once ultimately ended up signing, or once Buffalo claimed him off of waivers. And we are going to unpack what that means for this secondary, how our secondary has been performing already this year. I think you're going to be shocked based off of who is the most sound and consistent player in the secondary as far as efficiency collectively throughout the season. So without further ado, guys, let's dive into this. But before we do, I absolutely need each and every single one of you to hit that thumbs up sign for me. It's the easiest way to show love over here. I don't care how many people at one point are ever watching this show. If there is 70 people watching, there has to be 70 like buttons hit. If there's 300, there's got to be 300 like buttons hit. So do your part. Let's carry our weight, and let's continue to grow this wonderful family we have over here on the channel. And as many of you know, I am nosy. I want to know where you're tuning in from. What corner of the globe is Bills Mafia tapping in from this morning? I need to give a giant shout out to a couple of proud partners here today, guys. And then you're very familiar with this. Let's talk about William Matar. Folks, William Matar is the #1 car accident attorney in the state of New York. I would never wish a car accident on anybody, but say that it does happen. Some people just don't know how to drive, and you are on the receiving end of one of those things. You need to have the right guy in your corner. So memorize that phone number on the screen, 444-4444, and always keep William Matar top of mind. A giant shout out to him for being a proud partner of the channel. I also need to give a giant shout out to the official beer partner of the Don Mafia show, and that just so happens to be Garage Beer. It is beer tasting beer, ladies and gentlemen. I know that you've been in the grocery store and or your liquor stores, and you've seen this case chilling right in the fridge, and you haven't pulled the trigger yet for some odd reason. I don't know. Next time you're out, guys, you absolutely need to. You will thank me later. Garage Beer, it is beer tasting beer. And last but not least, a giant shout out to Sleeper. Big game tonight, Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions. Does George Pickens go off for over 100 once again? Does Jared Goff go nuclear on Thursday football as he tries to save the season for the boys over in Detroit? You could actually predict all of the outcomes and get paid for being correct. That's what Sleeper offers. And they're offering $20 just for signing up. So I highly recommend that you check them out. Plus a 100% deposit match all the way up to $100. Shout out to Sleeper for being a proud partner. And let's get into business, baby. Let's go ahead and lock in. But first, where is everybody tapping in from this morning? Do not be shy. I need everyone to tell me where you're tuning in from. Talk to me. We have Chattanooga is in the building. Spidey Mun is here. Jersey. What's up, Rynell? Hope all is well. Queens, New York, go Bills. Salem, Virginia. Snowy, Lockport, New York. Hendo, Hendersonville, North Carolina. Pennsylvania, Canada. Atlanta, Georgia. We have Central New York. I'm in Pittston, Pennsylvania today. Newton Falls, New York is joining us. Baltimore. We got Dagestan, Russia. Go Bills. Look at that, man. Hope you're enjoying your time there. Sao Paulo, Brazil, not lurking today. I appreciate that, Nick. Atlanta, Georgia, Fredericksburg, Virginia, North Carolina, Lewiston, New York, Orlando is in the building. Fort Mill, South Carolina, Jacksonville, Florida, Rochester, New York, Savannah, Georgia. Russia, nice. Somebody said in Jordan, New York. And last but not least, Seattle. An early morning for my boy Zay here. All right, so secondary, man. Let's go on ahead and first sort of unpack what Darius Slay means to this team. Because yesterday, if you have bell notifications turned on, I sincerely hope that you do, I had an emergency episode where I unpacked and gave you my immediate reaction of adding the 34-year-old cornerback to the roster. Now, I didn't have time to unpack what he has been looking like via all 22, what he looked like from an advanced analytical standpoint. But the more that I was able to do research this morning leading up to this show, I love this move even more. I do. And look, I know that it's polarizing because Brandon Beane is, in my opinion, undeservingly so, public enemy number one for the vast majority of the fan base. People hate, for some odd reason, when he brings in players that are old or, God forbid, somebody that has some sort of familiarity with the team when Buffalo is all but out of options. But this right here, no matter how you look at it, we have been able to finesse quite a few needle movers for this team, or key contributors on a very tight budget based off of where we stood financially. In fact, before I get into this, and I just want to sort of continue me backing Brandon Beane. Y'all know that I'm a massive apologist. Maybe I just like arguing with people. Maybe that's it. However, my buddy Kevin ended up pointing something out that I think you guys are going to appreciate as far as what we were able to bring in as far as contributors on this team for an absolute discount. And he highlights this perfectly. He said, Bills now have 3 players that were paid decent contracts this offseason. Brandon Cooks was paid $8 million, okay, with his base salary. We brought him in for what, pennies on the dollar, just based off of free agency by itself. Cheap-ass contract. Gabe Davis is still getting paid $12 million a year from Jacksonville. I mean, he was on the practice squad, so we were ultimately able to bring him on at a discount. And then Darius Slay, who was paid $9.7 million on this team. Guess what? It's only costing Buffalo $350,000 to add him to this team. So well over, close to $30 million, okay, of players that were paid this offseason are now on the team and could strategically be added on a variety of different measures that can help us at the very least in depth scenarios, right? Like, you could say what you want about any of these guys, right? Number one, with Brandon Cooks, I think that we can all agree that he brings a pretty interesting dynamic to this receiving room, okay? He's going to be your vertical type vertical route wide receiver. He's going to be able to run those posts in heavy set personnel. He's going to be able to run and beautifully execute these hitch routes in all 11-man personnel situations. Gabe Davis, it's clear as day that Josh trusts him a hell of a lot more than Keon Coleman, so that pays for itself. And then also with Darius Slay, in which that we are going to get into it. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about Darius Slay and why I like it. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So with Darius Slay, like I said, we ultimately end up having a quality veteran cornerback that is not particularly anywhere close to where he was as far as production-wise, but what he does well to this day, what he still performs at a high level at, coincidentally just so happens to be what Buffalo runs the most out of all of their defensive scheme. The Buffalo Bills in 2025, they are running cover 3 the most out of any other defensive formation this year alone, followed by cover 1. That just so happens to be Darius Slay's most quality performing coverages since 2022. Now, it's not elite, right? It's very neutral type EPA. He's not struggling specifically. However, in cover 1, his total EPA is 26.28. His average EPA per play is 0.341. It's not the best, but I can tell you this. It's a hell of a lot better than Kyer Elam. It's a hell of a lot better than Jamarcus Ingram. So something to put out there. And then cover 3, okay? Nearly neutral EPA, meaning that for the most part, right, he is performing at league average. Most of the time when you're talking about backups in anywhere on an NFL roster, you're seeing a pretty significant drop-off from average, okay? Like, you're seeing like third-string type play. While Slay is still 34 years old, he still has great hands and press man coverage, right? As long as you're not going up against wide receivers that have multiple breaks in their routes, he still trusts himself as high football IQ, knows what he's doing, I'm going to feel a hell of a lot more comfortable. Because there's no question here, folks, that where Buffalo stands and in our history in the playoffs, my God, man, our secondary takes a beating. Like, our secondary absolutely takes a beating. Last year, like, we had to rely on damn Kyer Elam to come in for Christian Benford. And what happens? Patrick Mahomes picks us apart, and that's game over, right? Tell you what, if Benford goes down, Trey goes down, Max goes down, what have you, I'm going to feel a hell of a lot more comfortable with Darius Slay out there than any of the other possible options we could have rolled out, pretending to be some sort of quality starting DB in the NFL, right? So all in all, I'm super happy. I was able to look at a couple of plays from Darius Slay so far this year. As far as what his all 22 looked like, I also looked back in several reps that he had with Philadelphia last year. His coverage is still there, especially in cover one. He's running stride by stride. His trail technique is still very good, if you were to ask me. So not all that bad from our boy Darius Slay added to the Buffalo Bills secondary, which is already a really good secondary, by the way. It's already a really, really good secondary, by the way. And surprisingly enough, I was curious, right? Because you're looking at some of these advanced metrics, and people that are lazy, right? Or the casual takes is, oh, of course our secondary looks so good, Dan Mitchell. Okay. It's because teams like to run the football against us, and teams really aren't passing against the Buffalo Bills. I'm not entirely convinced about that argument, because you want to know why? Efficiency is something. I want to talk about, what does the Buffalo Bills team look like 80 to 90% of the time in most coverage situations? And in most coverage situations, folks, this team is doing particularly well. I am a huge advocate, at least for anybody that watches this show. I want to bring you over to the light side of advanced analytics. That is my goal. You want to know why? Because the vast majority of people, okay, that say, I watch film, 90% of you don't watch film, okay? 90% of you watch somebody else reacting to film. And on most of the videos that you see on YouTube, very oftentimes all of these content creators are picking a very limited amount of plays to react to. Very oftentimes 15% of the snaps, 20% of the snaps. And they're very oftentimes picking plays that were highlights, that are top of mind from you, right? Film review on an individual basis would take weeks to react to an entire game. Because when you're watching film, most of the time, somebody that's just getting into it is exclusively looking at the quarterback and the wide receiver. That is it. And the ultimate end of the play. So, or even the play side type contributors. Many people aren't looking at what your Z receiver looked like in one specific rep on maybe a rep where your X receiver ended up executing a beautiful crossing route, like in the intermediate. How did that open up things, right? Like, how does the team look efficiently? It would take weeks for you to be able to get through one game. So what I like is looking at the film, obviously, on specific scenarios, and looking at how a team actually performs, right, on a consistent basis. Like, how are you consistently good? Because there are a big difference right in between plays where a team just seemingly shits themselves or what they look like normally. That's why I like DVOA, right? Because with DVOA, it takes away luck out of the equation, or like big time plays, right? It tells me what the team is. And why I've ultimately ended up putting all that out there for you guys is because you're going to be shocked to hear that Tre'Davious White, where it stands, is the one of the most efficient players we have in this secondary right now. In fact, the top two players that everybody was so enamored with and so hating on from the beginning of the season, as far as consistency is concerned, folks, Trey White and Jordan Poyer have been the most efficient players on this secondary all year. All year, man. Shout out to both of those players. Shout out to the front office for bringing them back, making the difficult decisions of making them roll out there and replace a Taylor Rapp. Like, look, guys, it's no question. It's no question that this team's secondary has been incredible for the past couple of weeks. And so when you hear that Trey White has only let up 2 receptions since week 6. You have to give him credit for that. I mean, you really do. With Jordan Poyer, right? Like, he has been helping Cole Bishop elevate his game like no other. He's a sound tackler, right? He's making plays. He's a vet. He has the football IQ. It's certainly not somebody that I would plan for the future of this team, obviously. I do think that he will retire at the end of the season. But, I mean, look. So with these 2 players have been integral to our secondary success. So I feel like that they deserve quite a bit more respect. Followed by Christian Benford. He is the 3rd most efficient. He had a rough start to the beginning of the season. Now he's playing toward the top, man. He is very much back to CB1 level. Followed by Cam Lewis. And this is funny. And this is interesting. Cam Lewis has actually been significantly better than Taron Johnson. Okay? He's been significantly better. I don't know what's going on with Taron. Is he playing through an injury or something along those lines? So, something to consider here. Something to consider. And then Maxwell Harrison is 7th. And by the way, I did run all of these numbers based off of minimum 150 plays. We did have one guy that I'm really pumped about, but it's more of a future move. Hands down, the most efficient DB that we have on this roster, granted it is a limited sample size, is Jordan Hancock. Minus 0.162. He is a man possessed out there with the limited reps that he has been allowed to have. And do not be shocked at all if next year the starting safety tandem is going to be Jordan Hancock and Cole Bishop. I think that could be something that we could ride with throughout the remainder of the season. And that's something I think we should all get excited about right there, man. Some quality stuff. Guys, we have 135 of you in the building right now. I ask each and every single one of you to hit that thumbs up sign. We need 135 of you to hit that thumbs up. Let me know what is on your mind, and let's get into a Q&A segment. Folks, as you know, as far as my Q&A segments are structured, please label them efficiently so I can decipher between internal conversations within the live chat and then also takes and or questions directed to me. So label them with either a Q and or an S, and I will do my best to get to each and every single one of them. The Q&A segment has now begun. We have the Bengals game right around the corner. All right. I know a lot of us are worried about that. Hopefully you ended up watching my preview video yesterday. We have quite a bit to discuss today, guys. So start loading up your questions. What is on your mind? Let's get into it. We have Jason has come in saying, I believe Buffalo has an above average secondary. Slay adds more than people think. So I'd argue that Buffalo has a good, close to great secondary based off of it. Based off of some of the moves that we have been able to make to maybe address some of the early season weaknesses, like Poyer being put in place of Taylor Rapp has helped this team a lot, right? Trey White has looked very good, minus those first 6 weeks. He's made adjustments. And it's funny, too, because you saw the same thing from him last year when he was on the Baltimore Ravens. He started off on the Rams, looked like trash, but toward December and toward the playoffs, his film started looking really good. So maybe it just takes maybe it just takes him a little bit to get back into business. He's been looking good, man, and I really can't shake him. You know what I mean? Let's talk about this. We have Riley is in the building saying, if Hancock is so good, why doesn't he take Poyer's snaps and just let Poyer teach and help Bishop off of the field? So in my opinion, I think that you don't fix what's not broken. With Jordan Poyer, he is just so comfortable within this McDermott system. And a lot of people, I think, were looking at how he played in Miami last year. And Bills fans, once we brought him back, people thought, oh, he's washed. It was so clear based off of last year or his last year with Buffalo, where he was certainly struggling, but was dealing with some injuries. In my opinion, you don't have to elevate snaps for somebody if what you're doing is working. Now, I really wish that they would stay consistent with that. because it's part of the reason why I think that Shaq Thompson should get most of Terrell Bernard's snaps for the remaining of the season. I genuinely believe we should. I hope Buffalo stays consistent with that thought process, but who knows? Who knows? Should I start the Bills defense in fantasy? I would not do that. No, I would not do that at all, man. While I'm giving the Bills secondary credit, I do think that this is going to present some challenges for them. If Buffalo can hold Cincinnati to like 24 points or below, that's a win in my book. We should be celebrating that team. If the Bills defense can somehow, some way hold the Cincinnati Bengals to 24 points, and that would be a team accomplishment because that would also suggest that Buffalo is dominating time of possession, then kudos to them. But no, I'm not particularly confident that that's going to be the game script or the game plan to come out on top with the victory here. So the victory for me is start off with the game plan of being able to dominate time of possession, no turnovers, and keep Joe Burrow off of the field. But a secondary game plan is if that script, if Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals offense takes that script and wipes their ass with it, I better see some adjustments. And so I better see some adjustments, and sooner rather than later. Question, Dan, how does the injury report look like? Will Max be back on Sunday? Let's take a look, man. Let's take a look based off of where we are. Okay. So the injury report from yesterday, I did ultimately end up making a TikTok about this and an Instagram. And by the way, guys, say, for example, that you want more like short form videos, instant analysis, and instant reactions. TikTok and Instagram is where you'll find those. However, based off of yesterday, Bernard and Joey Bosa did not participate. Based off of my good friend Thigh Doctor, he believes both of them are not going to be participating on Sunday or will not be available. As far as Bernard is concerned, again, I am a big Shaq Thompson. He needs all the snaps at Mike moving forward, right? It's unpopular. I get it. It's likely unpopular with the coaching staff, but having Shaq Thompson out there playing at that responsibility is what you need to do. But both of those guys, in my opinion, I don't believe that either of them are going to play. Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins, right? Both are limited, which is surprising to me. Spencer Brown, here's my question. And I don't particularly know. I'm going to research and see what Thigh Doc perhaps said about Spencer Brown shoulder, and see what the injury was. Because so the fact that he's limited is, did he just have a dislocated shoulder during that Houston Texans game, right? Like, what was truly the problem? Because shoulder pain is no joke. Like, you're ultimately going to see a lot of difficult, or a long and difficult road of recovery with something that requires surgery. And like with the pain index is almost like unbearable. But I'm going to go on ahead and double check and see. Oh, here we go. Spencer Brown was just saying that he feels like he's pretty close. Okay, here it is. Let's go with this. Okay, Spencer Brown, and this is my boy Thigh Doc. This is back on November 24th, so it is dated. Right shoulder subluxation labral, and for anybody that's in the medical field, perhaps this makes a bit more sense to you. I'm completely in the dark. However, try to harness and play surgery in the offseason, roughly 2 to 3 weeks to get fit to play. Tricky part is it's post-arm equals more stress on the injury. See what happened 2 plays later on the second. So he has a subluxation labral. All right. For anybody that's in the medical field, that's what you're looking at. So he could be ready to play within about 2 weeks. I don't know. Let's see if he grinds through it and gets surgery after the case. And as far as Deion Dawkins, hopefully he is through the protocol and he's back to normal. You have Reed Ferguson, Reggie Gilliam, and Jackson Hawes, all full participants. And Dalton Kincaid was a limited participant with the hamstring, and then they also ended up adding the knee. So I'm not particularly sure what could have happened to his knee. He's limited, so we're going to have to see what Dalton Kincaid's designation is today before we start making any suggestions or we start throwing out like any theories of whether or not he'll be good to go. Because look, if y'all were paying attention to my if y'all were paying attention to my preview stream yesterday, and please put a 1 in the chat if you were watching my preview stream or you did watch it already. Dude, we need Dalton Kincaid out there. We need Dalton Kincaid out there, dude. We ultimately ended up having we're going up against a team that gives up 92.4 yards against tight ends on average. On average, man. Like not a season high, like not a Brock Bowers went crazy one week, but Cincinnati's given up close to 100 yards on average against tight ends. So this would be a good game. And y'all heard me this, so I do need the Bills to at least be capable of putting up 40 points against this defense. I'm not buying into the whole, they've made some adjustments on the defensive side of the football. They are taking the ball away, right? But still a lot of glaring holes within that team. It's just how it's looking. We have newbie drivers coming in saying Bills going 9-0 to close out the season. Keon Coleman's Super Bowl 60 MVP. Great show, Dan. Thank you. We have newbie drivers coming in. First off, with a $10 donation. I appreciate that. Guys, that's an example of going above and beyond in support of this show. But you already know the only thing I need from you is hitting that like button. It's free, and it helps that YouTube algorithm. A shout out to newbie driver for the donation. It is not expected, but it is appreciated. Damn, dude, listen. If we can go on a greatest story ever told type run, I will be one of the happiest people on the face of the planet. We have Jason has come in with a question. What do you think about Kincaid always injured? And do you think it would be smart to use Hawes more in passing games? So here's the thing, right? It's hard for me to answer that because Jackson Hawes was not really known much as a receiving tight end in college, right? And when you look at Jackson Hawes, let me just double check something. Okay. So based out of Jackson Hawes already, he's had 11 receptions for 149 yards and 2 touchdowns so far this season. So I suppose it really depends on what your risk tolerance is. Do we have enough rate of a sample size to come to any sort of conclusion that people didn't use him as a receiving tight end in college because they were inept? Or was there a reason why he wasn't a receiving tight end in college? I would be fine with some targets on Jackson Hawes. But again, I don't feel like that we've seen enough to prove that, hey, he is indeed a Dalton Kincaid type receiving tight end. Where Dalton Kincaid was one in college, he clearly is one in the NFL. And so I'll tell you what, one thing that I really hope Dalton Kincaid doesn't turn into, and this goes back into a tight end that I loved watching play based out of Cincinnati a couple of years ago. Maybe I'll remember his name. Here, let me see. Historic Bengals tight end. Let me see. No, not him. Let me see. It's not Charles Clay. Tyler Eifert. I really hope, I really hope that Dalton Kincaid does not become the next Tyler Eifert, right? Somebody that looked very good when healthy, but just could never shake the injury bug. He's had some injury problems, man. Yeah, he's had some injury problems. So it's to no fault of the training staff, if you were to ask me. It's more so just the stretch, right? Yeah. So that or Mike Gesicki with Dolphins fans. Yeah, I agree with you there. So that's it. And then last but not least, Josh Palmer. You have knee and ankle. If you were to hear from Sean McDermott, it sounds like it's not all that well. It sounds like that it's not all that good. So we'll see. Johnny is coming in. Johnny Rickshaw is coming in with a great question. He's saying, Dan, how do the Bills limit Chase's production? Man, a very difficult question to answer. But my best stab at it would be, you're still going to get insane production from Ja'Marr Chase, but you can limit the insanity, if that makes sense. If that makes sense, right? Because what I think Buffalo should do is bracket him. That's just about every single defense's game plan against Ja'Marr Chase. And Chase still eats while being bracketed, right? He's still a very efficient receiver. He still finds space better than everybody. He still generates separation. He's still quality in that. He's still going to hurt you. So expect insane production, but limit the insanity. So rather than allowing him to just be one-on-one with Christian Benford, okay, with the opportunity of him going for well over 100 yards receiving, bracket him. Put Benford on him in press man coverage situations and put safety help over the top with Cole Bishop and limit him to 75. That's how you do it. We are going to be unable to stop him. But what you can do is limit him from having a career game. And so that's how you do it, right? So what Benford has been playing very well. So I think that we need to do our best of lining him up with Benford and making sure that it's as physical as possible at the line of scrimmage, okay? And then have Cole Bishop as your bracket. Mostly when you look at Cincinnati, they love running 2x2 sets as far as formation with their receivers. You're not going to see a lot of under center from Cincinnati. It's largely because Joe Burrow hates turning his back to the defense. He hates play action. Okay. It's funny actually, with Joe Burrow last year ranked 34th in the NFL in play action rate. And so there's 32 teams and he was 34th in the NFL for play action rate. That team doesn't utilize play action. So you know that they're going to be virtually taking all snaps from shotgun or out of pistol. It's just how it is, right? So they love 11-man personnel. They ramp up 12 quite a bit if T. Higgins is not out on the field. It's looking like T. Higgins may play, but say that he does not. Like, my game plan is, like, you have to bracket Ja'Marr Chase with Christian Benford and safety help over top. And say, for example, that they are out of 12-man personnel or like heavy 12, then you need to make sure that like you completely avoid light boxes like the plague and go from there. So it's not like how do you stop Ja'Marr Chase? It's how you limit the insanity, if that makes sense. And you're going to see a lot of screens from Cincinnati for sure, and just make your tackles. Need to be physical with Chase. You can get in his head. Yeah, listen, maybe he'll spit on one of our guys. Who knows? Statement: one way to limit Chase is for the Bills offense to eat up the clock in the run game and scoring 7 points at the end of drives. For sure, man. That right there is the game script that wins 9 times out of 10. However, one thing I need from Brady and one thing I need from this offense is, number one, and most importantly, don't turn the football over. That is key number one, okay? Limit those damn turnovers. I'm sorry, but I do not see us getting away with a multiple turnover game and winning this one. Thankfully, we were going up against a Pittsburgh Steelers offense that had a quarterback with only one hand, okay? I don't think that we will survive this game if, for example, we cough the football up more than once. I will give the Bills at least one turnover. 1 is fine by me, okay? 2+, I don't see us surviving that. I just don't see us surviving that. And then number 2, say, for example, that this control the clock type game that at least objectively goes out the window, we need to adjust. And so we need to adjust. We need to dial up some game plans for Brandon Cooks because he's the guy that can stretch the field for you. we need to take what the defense gives us, right? Like we need to incorporate running backs in the pass game, leverage Yak, because this team's letting up a lot of yards after the catch this year. So that's where it is. We have FW Princey's in the building. What's up, man? I hope all is well with you today. Unrelated to the defensive base show today, if Justin Jefferson does request a trade during the offseason, and do you think we have the assets to get him, or will the Vikings not want to work with us? Well, first off, so I feel like that's a loaded question. So because number one, will he actually request a trade? I think it depends on what their plan is for quarterback moving forward. If they elect to stay with J.J. McCarthy, I think his frustration will grow. Maybe he will ask for a trade at this point. But you do need to remember that contract from Justin Jefferson would be insane. At one point, he was the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. I'm pretty sure he still is. And so I don't think that Chase's numbers exceeded him. Maybe he did marginally. However, let's go on ahead and take a look here. You go on ahead and lock that here. Let me see if I can manage the roster real fast. In 2025, you go into 2026, you have a cap hit of $38 million. $24.9 million is going to be the cap hit for the Buffalo Bills. So what would the Bills do right there? Like we would have to add an additional $24 million. So would we be able to like knock that out? Perhaps. We'll see what's going on. And the following year, $29 million would be added to the cap. An active roster bonus once you end up putting that into the equation. So this is where it's at. So next year, say that he was traded to the Bills, then we would probably account for about $24 million. That base salary goes against our cap. It's just how it is. A post-June 1st trade, yeah, it's a lot of dead. So we would probably need to send over multiple firsts, but say that we can make it work financially, I am all about it. That much I can tell you. Pro Bowl is flag football, not back in the day. Dude, what can you say? Does Josh have to outplay Burrow for us to win? Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. And so I would say so. And so I'm hoping our defense can generate a turnover. And so I don't really see us getting a lot of pass rush. We are going up against a pretty weak offensive line when it comes into pass protection. But yeah. And for some odd reason, I feel like this game to me feels like a shootout. It feels like a game where I think that Josh needs to play clean, mistake-free football. And so I think he needs to take what the defense gives him. That's the game plan for me. But again, time will tell. If T. Higgins becomes available, and so do you think that he would be a good fit? I'd probably be okay on that one. Hi, Dan. And did you watch any of the highlights from the Ravens-Bengals game? I did better than that Bills chick. I watched the all 22. Okay? And so I watched that all 22 film from the Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens game. So the Bengals, like what? So they coughed the football up 5 times? Yeah. And so the Bengals, man, like we're just coughing up the football and handing it over to Cincinnati. Like that was the issue with that team, but it still looked pretty good, man. Dan, if you had to pick who's making the Pro Bowl for the Bills, so I guess it really depends on like who's going to get voted for or like get voted on. Voted on who? So I feel like James Cook is definitely an easy one. As far as like who probably should be. I feel like James Cook is probably one of the only ones like that, and Josh probably. And so remember, so when it comes into the Pro Bowl, it's fan voted. So say, for example, that like we wanted to all come together and vote Jameis Winston in as a Pro Bowl candidate, he would be a Pro Bowl quarterback. It's based off of fan vote, right? So that's why I particularly don't really look much into the Pro Bowl because it could easily be manipulated based off of voting. So that's me. So do you think we target a wide receiver in the offseason, not in the draft? So I'll do you one better. So I think that we actually double dip. So I think that we go for a wide receiver in free agency and or via a trade. And then I also think that we add some wide receiver help in either the first or the second round of the draft. Yes, I do think that Buffalo will ultimately end up having some answers with that. Since it looks like Joey Bosa won't play Sunday, and do you foresee Bills activating Morgan Fox? And do you think CV Darius Slay will help the Bills secondary? Light of Truth is coming out. So Morgan Fox makes a lot of sense, right? So it's either going to be him or it's going to be Shaq Lawson. And depending on where the Buffalo Bills want to take their defensive line. With Morgan Fox brings a hell of a lot more to the table for pass rush, right? But how much would he bring? And Shaq Lawson brings a hell of a lot more to the run defense side of things. So it's going to be one of those two players. Who I would activate would be Morgan Fox. But who I think the Bills are going to activate is Shaq Lawson. It's based off of familiarity. And so the Cincinnati Bengals offense actually runs the ball quite effectively. I don't know. Maybe both of them are elevated. Who knows at this point, right? Who knows? Maybe both of them are elevated at this point. Because, damn, we are thin at that position. I just want to make sure that at any point during this game, we're not asking TJ Sanders or Daquan Jones to shift over and get snaps off of the edge. Because there's been a couple of games where we've had to do that, like just based off of roster limitations. And then Darius Slay will help the Bills secondary. So I think that this was a depth piece move. I do think that he might be rolled out in specific dime packages. I think that he will be like your sixth DB. And with Buffalo's running dime, I think close to about 18% of the time this year. So like we're doing it quite often. And Buffalo really needs to lean in to their strengths to sort of overcome their weaknesses with all of the injuries on the defensive line. So I don't think Darius Slay is going to dominate snaps this Sunday, like having more than 20 to 30% of the snaps, and that's probably even being a bit generous. But yeah, man, most definitely. I am very confident on what Darius Slay can bring to the table, especially at his age. You think that Miami will still be willing to entertain parting with Waddle if Bean revisits the negotiation in the offseason? It all depends on what GM is brought in. But one thing I am confident in is that Bean will revisit the conversation. And so I do think that Buffalo will sort of make that call. So with Waddle would be great for me. I would love Alec Pierce as well. He could be a great addition right to this Buffalo Bills team, but we'll see. I just want to note that Shaq Thompson still hasn't had his annual pop-off game. He's been playing damn well. He's been the best linebacker we have on this team. So do we want Bosa back next year? We have Western turkey hunting. Dude, shout out, brother. Shout out, brother. And so I've been turkey hunting in a long time, man. Long time I haven't been turkey hunting. No. Right? Say, for example, so it all depends on what he's going to look like once he comes off of injury. How long is he going to be out with that hamstring? So according to McDermott, he was saying it could be anywhere between 1 to 5 weeks. He said that, of course, without saying that. Say, for example, he comes back and he's an absolute unit in the playoffs, but not too much of a unit to where his value is going to be close to like $10, $15 million per year, $20 million per year, then I think we would. So it all depends on the price tag. So it all depends on the price tag in free agency. All right, let's see. And did you see the interview with Shaq Thompson when he said, we cannot allow them to break into our house? I know Bernard is the D's captain, but since Shaq is way better, I hope they keep him in. I hope that's the case too. It's not even looking like Bernard is trending to play with his elbow injury, but we shall see. I would re-sign Bosa to like a 2-year deal. He still has the juice for sure. But then again, you also end up risking his history of a pretty big injury history, unfortunately. But all right, folks, that's going to have to do it for another edition of the Don Mafia Report. Sorry about that. And for a second, I thought that I was on the Bills roundtable. That's later. And as a matter of fact, guys, in case you were unaware, and so I need each and every single one of you, so to go on over to the Bills Roundtable YouTube channel and go subscribe, dude. I'm pretty sure we're so close. I'm pretty sure we're so close to 1,000 subscribers, man. Look at this. 941 people have subscribed to the Bills Roundtable. This link's in my description, by the way. It is me, Kevin, and Z-Bot, and then also Bills Bunker. We meet twice a week to discuss everything Buffalo Bills. And we're typically live around 4:15 p.m. EST. So lock in. We are going to be previewing and unpacking what challenges the Cincinnati Bengals bring, okay? How we can overcome them, how we can defend our dirt at Highmark and improve to 9-4. So go over there and subscribe and make sure you tune in because we're going to be having a great time. Look at that. You have my show to at least start your workday, and Bill's Roundtable ends your workday. Look at that, folks. You're welcome for the background noise while you wrap up your day to day. So shout out to this Bills Roundtable. And I certainly hope each and every single one of you tap in a bit later. Thank y'all, and we'll see you soon. Bye.